the last 2 years have propelled everyone into the streaming revolution, whether they liked it or not, right? So even those audiences who were holding out and maybe being sort of laggards and experimenting with it, but not really getting into it that much, had no option but to embrace it.
Hindi industry will be in trouble if Sholay releases and does badly. Then we are in trouble. We are in trouble. Good stuff will work, bad stuff will not. Simple.
Country has now become a place where you can have pan-Indian movies and pan-Indian stars. It happens to be happening from south to the north right now, which is great. They've done it. They've managed to achieve it. It's, more power to them. I think we need to now take this as an opportunity to say we can do it too with Hindi cinema.
It was a good film, right? The films that we are talking about over the last 3 months, they are not very good, or they have not been very good, right? I mean, you've gone for all the trials and you've gone for all the reviews and all that. Good film will work, a bad film will not work. Spider-Man will work because it's a good film. It works. It's entertaining.
So, firstly, welcome to Pinkvilla, guys. It's lovely having you here.
Thanks, Jimesh. Thank you, Pinkvilla.
So, my first question is to both of you. How did the two of you decide to collaborate on Rocket Boy? What was the process like to get, two giant forces team up on this particular project?
Well, that question has to be answered only by Siddharth because he's the one who made the phone call. I was going to say yes to anything.
Well, so actually, we'd been talking for a long time about something to do together. And there was a really young, not really, he's young, but really smart young writer who came into the office. His name is Abhay Korane. He came to us with the idea of doing a series on Homi Bhabha and Vikram Sarabhai. And, what was really interesting was that he informed me, at least I had no idea, that their lives were so intertwined, that they lived these concurrent journeys. There was a mentor-mentee relationship between Homi Bhabha and Vikram Sarabhai. And they experienced, their personal and professional lives had a lot of interplay, which actually I had no idea about. So that excited me. And then when we got chatting, actually, Nikhil and I, about what we could do together, we chatted about this one. And he got just as excited. And he'd actually done a lot of research on space program, etc., because of, other projects that he'd been working on. So then he and Abhay started digging into that world. And they did a ton of research on, what exactly the journey of these two men were. And that's where the project began.
But so, when you are making something, these the projects based set against the backdrop of space often have that thing of visual spectacle as well. So what was the idea when it came your way to, what was the triggering point to make it into a series and not a feature film? Because there's so much to play on visuals, and these stories are so fascinating in all fronts, from drama to emotions to visual, which warrant also something for the bigger screen. So how did you decide on bifurcating?
So two things. One, their lives are so big and their story is so big, right? I mean, the journey of their life is so big. From 1942, we've actually caught them at a time when they were early 30s and early 20s. So the fact that they're both, Dr. Sarabhai and Dr. Homi Bhabha's lives are so big, they've done so much over it, you can't actually say they're in 2.5 hours. It's not possible. That's one. And the other part of your question, which is that the spectacle versus cinema versus OTT or whatever. All I have to say is 3 words to you: Game of Thrones. It's not about the spectacle versus. See, the thing is that the thing is that also Hamish, I want to take the opportunity to tell people that if they are going to be coming to watch the show for spectacle and for just seeing how a rocket is traveling to space and all, they are going to be sorely disappointed. The bigness of the show is these two men and their lives and their emotions and their friendship and their support for each other, as well as their how they put it, their displeasure in what if they felt it. So I think that is very key. It's a huge in Anand, that line is there, na? Zindagi badi nahi hoti hai, lambi nahi hoti hai, badi hoti hai.
But so like you mentioned about it being set against the backdrop of space and the real spark being the interpersonal relationship. Do you think that is always the case with feature films, where an event will be the backdrop and the core of emotions will always be the interpersonal conflict, and that is something that will get the audience excited?
Well, I think that is a great ingredient, right? In the sense that we have the event as a backdrop, and and everything else becomes and their personal lives actually is what is driving the story, and how event affected the characters in the story is what is driving it. I mean, whether it is airlift, that's something that we have done, whether it is Batla. I mean, I've only heard very this thing briefly from Ronald, who's doing Pipa for Sid. You know, it's
Yeah.
a it's about the Bangladesh war, but what a fucking story! I mean, it's an unbelievable story from the point of view of the characters that Ishan and Mronal are playing. So
Yeah.
I think that really at the end of the day, that is a great ingredient for a story, which is if you can have a big event which actually affected so many of us, and all of us have something to say. I mean, that's what Mumbai Diaries is about, right? Which is that all of us have
Yeah.
something to remember, that where was I on 26/11? And then you see a story
Yeah.
which affected the doctors or the nurses or the hospital staff of Bombay General Hospital. So I mean, why would I'm a huge endorser of that of this formula. I think it works for me. Yeah.
And Sid, sir, for
What I think
you?
is really beautiful about a series is it gives you the opportunity to live with these characters across a long period of time. You spend many hours with them. And I think
Hmm.
these were two characters that deserve that amount of time. It's like a novel.
Hmm.
I mean, it's very much like a novel where you're living with those characters over many, many pages, right? It's similar with a series. You're living with them over multiple hours. And so,
Hmm.
and the sweep of the journey would not have been captured as as intensely, I think, if it was made into a
Hmm.
film. Also, I think, like Nikhil said, sometimes with films it's nice to center it around an event and then you work around that event. This was actually
Hmm.
a long saga that ran across multiple decades, so it lends itself to a series sort of format.
And the two of you have phenomenal understanding of the dynamics of Indian market. And in last 2 years, a lot has changed. As producer, how has your approach to selecting content evolved in these 2 years specifically? Seeing the way audiences have changed, and how have the audiences changed according to you?
Nikhil, you want to take that?
I'm thinking. I'm thinking of an intelligent answer. Say, I'll copy you.
I think the last 2 years have propelled everyone into the streaming revolution, whether they liked it or not, right? So even those audiences who are holding out and maybe being sort of laggards and experimenting with it, but not really getting into it that much, had no option but to embrace it. So when you talk to audiences today, the breadth of their content experience is incredible. They are watching movies from the south, from the east, from Korea, from France. I mean, and these are people who you would
Yeah.
never would be watching content like that, because the world is their oyster now. And I think the value equation in somewhere in their mind has flipped, where they realize that for very little you're getting this much, and they've had the time on their hands as well to be able to enjoy it. So I think we now need to accept that our audience has now got this taste and this sort of experience of all kinds of content. And so it's great, because it's a challenge to ourselves now to be able to match up to what they can at the flick of a button watch from around the world. And at the same time, it gives us the opportunity to go to the world without any barriers. I mean, earlier you make a theatrical film you believe can travel. How are you going to get distribution in Brazil and in Africa for your movies?
Yeah.
It was a rarity. Today, on day one, it's there, right? So now it's on us. Now it's on us to make content that can work both in our own country, in states where we had not fully penetrated earlier, and in countries around the world. So it's a great time.
And Nikhil sir, according to you, how?
Yeah, so I think that it's. I mean, of course, the world is an oyster for the audiences. It's also for the content creators, right? In the sense that I think that today, I mean, Sid and I both are waiting for cinemas to open to 100%, and for all we'll be collaborating on quote unquote the next blockbuster also. You know what I'm trying to say? In the sense that I think that today, and tomorrow, and if it takes time, and for that matter, if say some big superstar is saying that listen, I'm willing to go on to OTT, we'll jump on that bandwagon also. I think that what is interesting for us is that we are today in a position to say that wow, this I can make this film, and I can make it for a 3,000 cinema release, or I can make this show and I would like to make it for this particular platform, or this platform has commissioned us to do a show like this, which is a story of two men, which spans three decades, you know, and they're scientists, right? And one guy plays a violin, and the other guy basically started a textile revolution. At the same time he sent a rocket to this thing. At the same time he started IIM Ahmedabad. So these are. So I'm saying that I think as you know, I think as content creators, we have the last 2 years. I mean, it's been horrific, right? It's been terrible in terms of what it has done to people, in terms of the migrant issues, etc., etc. Like I was answering a question to somebody else, saying that a big part of Rocket Boys is that we use the lockdowns for continuing writing and continuing doing our research and getting the research on the writing side. Correct. So if you use these 2 years effectively, I think, and you planned, made good plans and made effective plans, you're going to be blasting.
But so so much of late has been spoken about the Hindi film industry in terms of where are we going wrong. Do you guys as producers sit down to analyze कि ये गलत हो रहा है, we need to work towards it as an industry? Because right now in December there has been a Spider-Man which has done well, a Pushpa which has done well. For Bollywood it has just been a Suryavanshi, for example. So do you sit down and analyze as to क्या गलत हो रहा है in terms of content creation over here?
I've learned that things like 2020 vision are always a wonderful thing, because you can look back and you can have your theories about why this has worked and that has not worked, and that it's a pastime in our industry, and I'm sure it's like that in every industry. And I think it's important not to take knee-jerk reactions because of what's happening in the last 3 months at the same time. What I take away is the country has now become a place where you can have pan-Indian movies and pan-Indian stars. It happens to be happening from south to the north right now, which is great. They've done it. They've managed to achieve it. It's, more power to them. I think we need to now take this as an opportunity to say we can do it too with Hindi cinema. Why shouldn't we be able to? Now, which stories, now we have to be honest with ourselves about which stories lend themselves to being able to do that and which ones don't. It happens that a Bahubali is a film that used, it was fictional, but you can see echoes of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana in it, in the characters that it had, right? And in the relationships. And that is as pan-India as it gets. So it was beautifully constructed to be able to appeal to as wide an audience as that. Or you have Pushpa, where the character is someone who comes from a marginalized section of society and has got personal angst, and so things that are universal, that don't need language to be able to sort of travel. But if you want to make something urban, make it in the right commercial context that makes sense. So I think it's a mistake to put filmmakers who don't have the ability to think in a certain way into a box, saying now you better think like this because you need to make a film that works, in the south of India as well, because they've done that with North India.
True. Basically there should be a freedom of what you want to make, but with the right commercials in place.
And you should accept it as a challenge to say, I want to make some movies that will travel all across the country, but pick the right ones to do.
And Nikhil sir, what do you have to say about this factor? In one of the discussions, I saw you speak about budgets also in terms of actor fees and all those stuff. So
yeah, I don't know. Maybe I said a little too much in those discussions. But no, but it's simple, yeah. Good. I believe good content, good film will work. A bad film will not work. Now, whether Pushpa is a good film, right? The films that we are talking about over the last 3 months, they are not very good, or they have not been very good, right? You've gone for all the trials and you've gone for all the reviews and all that. Good film will work, a bad film will not work. Spider-Man will work because it's a good film. It works. It's entertaining, right? So the thing is that I think that like Sid said, it's a knee-jerk reaction to say this as 83 did not work but Pushpa worked and all that. We really need to fill in. We really need to talk about things on our Twitter feeds, So all our lives are about that. Oh wow, there's that, ये वो, all this. Please, अच्छी picture है, सब लोग जाके देखेंगे, सब. It's not as if guys in Hyderabad are not watching Hindi films, or the guys in Chennai are not watching. They will watch the film that works. They will watch the film that I have friends and I have colleagues and I have actors from the south who see the trailer of Rocket Boy, and they have not spoken to me in 5 years, and they have called up to say, listen, we just saw the trailer. Right? We just saw this trailer. It really looks superb. Can't believe that you guys have actually made a story about these two. This thing, full power to you. So I'm saying, I don't, and the show is not out as yet, right? The show is not out as yet. The verdict will still come out on 5th of February. From our part, what Sid and I, chose to achieve. We are very happy with what Abhay Pannu has done. He's done a phenomenal job. As a debut director, as somebody who's written it, who's so committed to it, who chose to tell the story in such a different way. We've got much more than we could bargain for. I'm sorry, I'm speaking on your behalf. So I'm saying कि यार ये all this ये नहीं चली but वो चली. Hindi industry is in trouble. Hindi industry will be in trouble if Sholay releases and does badly. Then we are in trouble.
And so talking of Rocket Boy, this is I believe this will be multi-season. So what's the status like? Have you already shot for the second season, or what is it like?
Yeah, we've shot for both seasons at once. So the second season is pretty much going to release whenever Sony decides that it's the right time to do it. But we'll be ready pretty quickly because we've shot both together.
Correct. And last question. So could you tell us what about your lineup going forward in terms of content for all the mediums?
No, so Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway with Rani is going to release soon. That's in post-production. We are in prep. And almost about to start on Mumbai Diaries, which is the second season. And then we have several other shows lined up with Amazon itself. But most eager right now to complete second season of Rocket Boy.
And Siddharth, for you?
We've got Pippa, which is shooting, which has 3 more months of shoot and will release later in the year. We've got Wo Ladki Hai Kahan, which is shooting right now. Another few days of shoot left. We've got Rocket Boy season 2, of course. We've got the second season of Aranyak that we're working on right now, and other shows and series that are in development.
Correct. And there's Sare Jahan Sets also, which is again set against the backdrop of space. Is that in the making, or
that will announce the day we start shooting? We'll make an announcement.
Perfect.
And I will comment. Salute. Pun intended.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir. It was lovely talking to the both of you, and wish you best of luck for the show.
Thank you.